Hello BookTube. Today I'm going to be doing the Girl Scout cookie tag. This tag is the creation of a web of stories, and I'm drawing on Alex and Bridges' version of the tag for the prompts. So I'll leave links to both a web of stories and Alex's channels in the show notes down below. I had originally planned on doing this tag on Tuesday, but it didn't quite work out. And yesterday I really wasn't feeling all that motivated to make videos. So hopefully I'll have 2 videos today. At least this one, if all goes well. So let's get going with the prompts. Prompt number 1, Trefoils. Classic novel you love. Now, like I've mentioned several times, I don't really get on all that well with classic or canonical fiction. I'm not really drawn to it, and I haven't been for a number of years now, probably closer to a decade or more. I am starting to, I do have right now a desire for mid-century American drama. Whether that will expand into wanting to pick up or reacquire classic or canonical novels or fiction to my collection throughout the year, I don't know. So my pick for this prompt is going to be something from the mid-20th century. The Master of Go by Yasunari Kawabata, translated by Edward G. Seidensticker. So, The Master of Go is a novel set in the late 1930s. It is based on a true story. In the late 1930s, Yasunari Kawabata was a reporter for a major newspaper, and he was assigned to cover the retirement match of a prominent Go player named Honinbo Shusai. Shusai was a very controversial figure. He largely, I guess what Go is today, or at least in the 20th century, was largely because of Shusai's work, but there was a lot of controversy with him as well. He had some shady dealings. He kind of manipulated the rules to benefit himself, that sort of thing. And he'd played several retirement matches before, or major matches that were kind of sort of billed as retirement matches, but this was his true final one. And he played against a younger player, much younger player, who in the novel is named Mitani. I think his real name was Minoru. And so basically the novel follows the match, and it turns into a rumination on tradition versus modernity and beauty and art, and it's really fascinating. I really love this novel every time I read it. Prompt number 2, Lemon Ups, a book you find inspiring. So I think there are many forms of inspiration, and I'm going to go with artistic, creative inspiration. And so for this prompt, I'm going with Maria Theresa by Barbara Stollberg-Rilinger, translated by Robert Savage. This is a biography of the Austrian Empress Maria Theresa, who is a major historical figure in the 18th century. I really enjoyed this book, and the character of Maria Theresa, the historical figure of Maria Theresa, is one that I absolutely want to create a character based on, and I actually have an idea. There's a fantasy world that I've been building for years that one of the kingdom's monarchs is very much based on Maria Theresa. Prompt number 3, S'mores, a comforting book. This prompt was a bit of a challenge to answer because I don't really go to, well, I guess I don't take a traditional approach to reading for comfort. So for me, if I'm feeling down, if I'm feeling depressed or not feeling well or need some comfort, things aren't going well, I will actually either go paint or I will go browse my cookbooks. And one of my favorite cookbooks to browse is Martha's American Food by Martha Stewart. So this is a collection of recipes from all over the United States. The book is divided into chapters. The first chapter is All American, so recipes that are popular throughout the United States. And then each subsequent chapter is a different region. So the recipes that are popular or sort of representative of those regions. So the Northeast, the South, the Midwest, the Southwest, and the West. And it is fascinating. I love this cookbook. And all of my other cookbooks. And I'm going to talk a bit about this cookbook in my next video because I'm finally getting around to doing the bookshelf essentials. And this is going to be the first one. So yeah, love this cookbook. Okay. Prompt number 4, Adventurefuls, an adventurous book. So for this, I'm going with the Odyssey by Homer. So this is one of the foundational works of the Western canon. It's about the Greek hero Odysseus' 10-year voyage home from Troy after the Trojan War. Prompt number 5, the Samoas, a book that blends 2 or more genres. For this, I'm going to go with Priest of Bones by Peter McLean. This is the first book in the War for the Rose Throne series. It is a fantasy novel that has a lot of crime fiction influences. So in a way, Priest of Bones is an urban fantasy. It is set largely in one city. So the novel is about a crime boss named Thomas Piety, who has returned from a war. And when he returns home, he discovers that his territories have been taken from him, that the gang members that had remained behind once he and most of the gang went to war are gone. They've been decimated. And so Thomas begins to slowly build his crime family back, using the surviving members of his and his brother's platoons. And while this is happening, he is recruited by the intelligence services of his homeland to engage in a sort of a shadow war with the other gangs in the city who are being patronized by the intelligence operatives from a rival kingdom. So the book is obviously a fantasy, but it has heavy elements of crime fiction. And in fact, the War for the Rose Throne series is very, very reminiscent of the television series Peaky Blinders, which is a historical crime series. Prompt number 6. Do's. Either a book you love that everyone seems to hate, or a book you hate that everyone seems to love. For this, I'm going to go with another novel that blends genres, and that is The Trees by Percival Everett. So this novel is literary fiction, it's a political satire, and it is also a police procedural. The Trees is largely set in the small town of Money, Mississippi, which is infamous for the place where about 70 years ago a young man named Emmett Till was murdered. He was lynched. During the Trump administration, a spate of serial killings are enacted. The victims initially are the descendants of the men who murdered Emmett Till, as well as, I think, a fictionalized version of the woman who accused him. At the scene of each crime, there is a body of a brutalized African American man dressed up as Emmett Till, with the murder victim's genitalia in his hand. These murders are sort of seemingly unsolvable, and so two detectives from Mississippi's investigative bureau, the state police, come in to investigate. They're joined by an FBI agent, and gradually more and more murders happen and start to spread across the state and across the country. And I thought, I enjoyed it initially. I thought it was quite funny, but gradually it started to wear on me until I just really wish I had bailed on the book. So anyway, so that's The Trees by Percival Everett. You go over here. Finally, Thin Mints, one of your all-time favorite books. For this, I'm going to go with View with a Grain of Sand by Wislawa Szymborska, translated by Stanislaw Baranczak and Claire Kavanagh. This is a collection of Wislawa Szymborska's poetry that run from the 50s through the early 90s. It is my favorite collection of poetry. I return to this book several times a year, and every time I reread it, I love it more. It's a fantastic collection. So, BookTube, that was the Girl Scout cookie tag. If you would like to do this tag, consider yourselves tagged. I will be back in a few moments with the first of my Bookshelf Essentials videos, which are well overdue. So until I see you next time, BookTube, thank you, have a great afternoon, and stay safe.